All right, I believe we are live. So I'm so glad a couple of people have shown up early and I've been waiting. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of emergency housing and how to get that. A lot of you guys, you've probably read about emergency housing vouchers. Many of you may have experienced it through the pandemic and the funding at that time, but the fundamentals of emergency housing or emergency housing voucher or much different than most of you think. Housing authorities no longer handle that. So, now, before we get started, I want to make a few introductions and also remind you guys this is the live video. If you have questions, please do ask. And I'm going to try to stop and start throughout the conversation and ask if anybody has any questions. A person was watching goes, Jay, you talk for a while, and by then, too many questions build up. So, I'll try to stop and start. And then I'm going to ask you guys. That'd be a good time to respond. And sometimes we make it through the whole video. Sometimes we end up not making it all the way through. So today's an introduction only. There'll be a second part that'll be much more serious regarding emergency housing voucher. And that will be next week on the same day and time. And it'll likely be a live video. So my name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with thousands of clients every year to help people get housing, answer critical questions, help them understand the fundamentals of federal law, housing vouchers, subsidies, low-income housing, affordable housing, and just about everything under the moon that relates to Section 8, HUDs, and housing authorities, right? Including those that have defensible positions where they're dealing with bad landlords or professional misconduct by housing authority employees. If you look in the description of our video, you'll see a link to our website. You'll see a link to our booking software. Our prices are fairly moderate. And I wanted to tell you that the option to speak with me or my company should be a last resort, which means you should have given your best efforts to resolve your issue on your own. However, if all other efforts do fail and you're not getting anywhere, then and only then would be appropriate to reach out to us. Nobody's got money to burn, and I certainly don't expect anybody to spend money needlessly. So I'm here in a situation for those that either too busy, have a complicated life, or so on, okay? You can find all that below. So today, again, we're going to be addressing this emergency housing voucher, and we're also going to talk about the correlation for those of you who are homeless. To understand the emergency housing voucher and how it corresponds with homelessness, we kind of talk about what the federal definitions are, and we're going to get into that. All right, so let's start with the basics. Prior to the pandemic, emergency housing vouchers were most often administered by your local housing authority, and what we call that is a PHA, or Public Housing Authority. So throughout this video, we'll mean PHA. Now, that changed immensely, and now emergency housing vouchers are issued by a policy, more or less, in a group, and we're going to discuss that. So the Continuum of Care is pretty much the fundamental program. So remember that, Continuum of Care, and they will be administering in order to, what I mean by administer, I mean they ask you questions. So you'll be going through what they call CES, Coordinated Entry System. Now, the Coordinated Entry System is a system where there's a manual, there are questions, there are answers, and that system will go. It has points awarded for whatever questions you answer, and each type of answer you give may have points higher or lower. All those points are then thus into a third system or acronym called HMIS system, which is a Homeless Information Management System. Now, for those of you seeking an emergency housing voucher, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be homeless like you see people under the bridge, okay? The emergency, or EHV, or emergency housing voucher, is more designed to address those that are A, already homeless, or B, you are at serious risk of becoming homeless. Those are the two types of people that would have a high likelihood of being able to qualify for this. If you do not have a mortgage, you do not have a lease, and you are living with another person, surfing couches, sleeping in the car, sleeping in the ER, sleeping in a homeless shelter, you're living in a hotel, or some other situation, then some of that would be considered imminent homelessness. And for those of you that are living in places that are uninhabitable, meaning no bathroom, no shower, no toilet, no sink, then that would be the truer definition of homelessness. And we're not going to get too deep in that today. That's what next week's video is about, is kind of qualifying you guys and showing you what would be necessary. Now that we understand kind of the foundation, is anybody like to ask some questions? This is hard for me because I'm the type of person I like to speak for probably 40 minutes uninterrupted. And by then, there's so many questions, people get confused. So I'm going to stop and take a look. Brandywine20, good morning and welcome to the channel. Hi, have you been? Let's see. Hi, how have you been? I need your help, please. Well, Brandy, I would tell you, make sure you keep coming back and watching the videos. I've definitely made a lot. There's a lot of information that can feed you and help you with this, inform, empower you. If Brandy, your situation is more dire or you have a very strict timeline where things are going to get serious, I would encourage you to reach out to our office, or you have other options as well. Any of you may contact 211 or 311, though they're not all, in my opinion, that great, and they certainly don't do casework. You may also contact your local housing authority if they decide to answer the phone. And you may also contact HUD itself. They can help you. There are many different types of homeless agencies out there, and if they have a few dollars left, then you can also contact them. But if you're looking to do things quickly and efficiently, you're probably going to want to work with somebody that understands the fundamentals of the system, knows how to get around it and expedite the process, because nobody wants to deal with a bunch of phone numbers that go nowhere, deal with organizations that will attempt to indenture you or have you go live in a homeless shelter for a couple of years before they give you anything. There's a lot of perils in the system. And my job is to help people avoid and fast track and help you dodge some of the unnecessary parts. Brandon White 20 goes on to say, I need a 2-bedroom, and they say I need a doctor's note for me and my son. Why is that? I am disabled. Well, I mean, Brandy, I think that there's a certain federal requirement or level in which you need to prove that there's a disability. The easiest way is that you establish you receive a Social Security disability check. If you don't do that, then they'll give you a form, and it'll have simply 4 different things, check boxes that your doctor or psychiatrist can sign or check off. And that's the one they're looking for, is that you have a mental or physical disability that will last greater than 12 months. In other words, Jesus is not going to touch you in the next 12 months and heal you. And if that's not the case, then you would have to submit the form they give you and have your doctor sign off. It's easier than you think. One of the things you guys want to consider when you're dealing with doctors is a lot of them, when they see these notes, they think that you're chasing down a disability check, and that gets serious. That means the doctor then has to take off work, cancel his schedule, go to court, fight with lawyers. So if you're going to approach your doctor about housing-related issues from a different federal agency, so we have Social Security Administration issuing a disability check, they are their own thing, and that's a different system, right? You need to explain to your doctor, hey, this is from HUD, a different federal agency. I don't need you to see a judge, fight a case. I'm not looking to win a check. I just need you to check one little box. This is related strictly to housing. I don't need you to show up and go anywhere. If you start the conversation dialogue with your doctor that way, then it'll be fine, or your psychiatrist. But you need to make those clarities. Otherwise, you're going to find a lot of resistance from most doctors because they don't earn money hanging out. And so this is why most doctors don't want to hear anything about forms and disability, because they think that most people are pursuing that free check, right? All right. Brandon White 20, very helpful. Well, I barely got started, guys, but I appreciate you saying that. That's always nice to start that way. Hey, guys, I'm going to bring up something real quick. We have memberships here, guys. I'm real serious about this year. You know what? You have to admit, after 15 years of doing this and making videos, I'm definitely not like most creators. I never tell you, hey, you know what? Please press like, push every button on the channel, like, subscribe, and all this other stuff, because I can't stand channels that do that. It's annoying. But I'm going to tell you about that membership real quick. So we offer them for as low as $2.99. If you like the content we have, you want to, this is a cool way of just supporting it. If $3 don't break the bank for you, sign up. We use that money in support of the cats that I rescue. So I'm not just a consultant. I also house cats. So I guess I'm a consultant that addresses the homeless narrative for housing, and I also do it as well for cats. I'm a pet lover, a big one, and I rescue cats, and that's my enjoyment. There's no dogs because those two, you can't have a bunch of cats and dogs together, obviously. So if you're a pet lover or you like our content, sign up. With those memberships there, get a cool badge. I'm going to honor you in the channel, and it's just a great way to show a little appreciation for those who want to spend an extra dollar. If not, hey, I get it. There's always Starbucks. We spend more money on a Starbucks coffee than we do memberships for the care and support of pets. But again, nobody's here for that. You don't need to take care of my cats, just there if you want to. All right, so let's go back to emergency housing voucher and comments. So we now know that if we're contacting Continuum of Care program, this is what it is, right? And it goes through coordinated entry location person that's verbally asks you questions, and contingent of your answers, there are being points awarded inside of that system called HMIS. And depending on the answers and the points you get, what thus happens at that point is you're going to be awarded one of four things now. Now, the best one you can get is emergency housing voucher, right? And the second is going to be permanent supportive housing. And then third to that's going to be rapid rehousing, and then shelter plus. So let's talk about that just briefly. Shelter plus means that instead of getting a yoga mat and a free roll of socks, you get a yoga mat and 2 rolls of free socks, and they kick you out rather than in a month, they kick you out at 6 months, okay? Doesn't sound like a lot of fun or a solution. Number 2, rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing means they very quickly give you a rapid rehousing voucher. And if you're not on a fixed income or disabled and you can recover, pull yourself together, go back to work, start paying your bills again, then they'll assist you with rent over the course of anywhere from a couple of months up to 2 years. That's good for those that don't need a more permanent solution. Now, the third tier and third option is for those that constructively have more needs, severe disabilities or mental health disabilities that make it impractical for them to usually keep a job for very long. And also, they may exhibit or do things that wouldn't be normally found that acceptable. And so, permanent supportive housing is kind of a voucher that allows you into a property where they understand that to some degree that you may not be always rational and that you need the extra help. And then they offer people that can counsel you. You can get Meals on Wheels and all those different things. That's only good for those that have profound issues and don't mind living in a more, I won't say controlled environment, but a situation where you're around other people that may have some functional issues with quality of life. Okay. I'm trying to put it gently. I'm not here to harass, right? Now let's move on to emergency housing voucher. Everybody wants the golden ticket. And look, if you're going to buy a Willy Wonka bar, right, you want to win, right? So let me give you all some advice. If you're going to play a rigged game, you might as well go ahead and play to win the main prize. Nobody's here for the little booby prize. So guys, if you're here for this video because you want Shelter Plus, I feel bad for you. Take my advice on this. Don't waste your time with any of these other vouchers except for the emergency housing voucher. Let's just be honest, okay? That's where we're all here. So the emergency housing voucher. Now, in the description of this video, you'll look down there. I'm going to show you all what they call their assessment, which is SPDAT. And then there's a secondary system, depending on the state, called BOSS, BOSS system. Now, this is to give you an idea. Most not housing authorities, but most CoCs have their own manuals. But the premise and the questions and the line of answers are relatively the same, and they've remained unchanged for about a decade. And so, a lot of us are on that fundamental belief that if we give this wondrous, oh, I'm missing an ear, one eyeball, 2 legs, and 1 tooth, I deserve that voucher. I deserve it more than Sally. Sally's only had half her face blown off, and she's got, she's only got 1 out of 2 flip flops, and I deserve it more. I've got more problems. It doesn't work that way. And then, of course, there's the thinking of, well, I'm 183. I have cancer. I have Munchausen. I've lost all my legs and arms. I only see out of half of my eyeball, and thus I should get this. It does not work on You achieving an emergency housing voucher will not be based on a logical pattern that you would think. You either tell these people precisely what's prescribed in that manual as an answer, or you don't get nothing. Okay, and so what we want to focus on is not sympathy stories or acquiring empathy or trying to draw on the heartstrings of these people in order to get this, because that's not what matters. What matters is you have a fundamental understanding of how they're assessing you, the rules in which you have to play by, and all the things they're never going to tell you. That's part of it, okay? But it's like you run. Say your car breaks down, you run to the library. Well, if I get a master mechanic guide to my car, does that thus mean you're going to pull the transmission and put a new one in? No. Look, guys, the administration of emergency housing vouchers is a one opportunity per year. So you run down there and say you got the manual, right? And you're giving all these perfect answers. There are other caveats to this. Many things written in the manual are like booby traps. Score too low, you get nothing. Score too high, you're considered a high risk. There are questions they'll ask that'll award points, but actually will actually terminate the whole conversation. So it's booby trapped in many ways. How do I know this? We consult with former directors and former program administrators. And so I have a very fine understanding of what the psychology is. This is what happens when we spend our good federal dollars. We send the administration of this test to Harvard and Yale, and we have these clever little bastards write these manuals. They design it with all kinds of traps to make it virtually impossible, even for a real homeless person, to get it right. But there's a way around. A is having the manual. Two is having somebody that understands the fundamentals, so you're able to clear all the passages in it, okay? Now, I'm not trying to over-convolute in an effort to get anybody to book anything with our office. It's important we understand the truth. If we can accept the truth and the basis of that reality, that means we're able to achieve and get this. Now, there are some situations when all things are perfect that you may not receive it, and that is if they don't have funding, number one. Number two, you're in a city where there's an extreme number of homeless people, and there's enough people scoring too much, and then you may end up on a waiting list for this. Now, isn't that so? How can you even imply that it's emergency voucher if there's actually a waiting list, right? In the last rumor I'd like to dispel is most of you have this concept that okay, the word emergency, the very word emergency, somehow implies these people are going to put the key in the door, snap the lights on, run the computer, punch you out a voucher in about 60 seconds. You're having flights of fancy. It does not work that way. After the administration of a test to you by phone or in person, and I'm going to answer some questions because I see they're flowing good now. So I'm going to stop and we'll take a little breather and I'm going to answer these questions for you guys. Depending on your state, with exception to New York, Jersey, Massachusetts, Florida, most of California, you're looking at 30, 60 days, and other states up to 90 days. And the most convoluted of all of them is probably going to be Florida and Los Angeles. The state of Florida, and again, Los Angeles. And if I had to narrow down the state of Florida, I would see the southern half of Florida. Why? Because one agency, it's like that movie most of you are familiar with, Lord of the Rings. Well, one ring rules them all out there. One agency is now sucked up most of the COC programs through half the state of Florida. And so now they're able to control how they defeat everybody and not give shit out. So it's good for them that they figured out a way to hang chandeliers and purchase the new leather couches, have champagne toast, but are unable to effectively administrate anything in that state. I have a lot of difficulty and it makes me mad. But to avoid putting another dollar in the swear jar today, which is supposed to be a video without profanities, I'm going to continue going before I become upset, and then you'll see the real side of me, because there's a lot I can say about the stuff that goes on in parts of Florida regarding emergency housing vouchers. All right, let it go, and we're going to move on. All right, I'm going to stop. This is the breathing point. Those of you who have questions, please do ask now, and I'm going to answer. Scrolling back, and Pamela, good morning. How are you? I was wrongly terminated and homeless. There are no changes, and I was termed for that. No resolving with them. Homeless now. Well, Pamela, there's certainly lots of solutions out there. And believe it or not, despite your issues with what you were dealing with, where you were specifically at, that likely can be changed by exiting that county. And there may be other processes in which we could arbitrate, but you really would want to reach out to my company or another that's qualified to do so. Anna, thank you for being a member. Us that called the referral. Brandon around 20 says right. And he goes on to say, oops, is that considered a referral? All right, so there's some internal talking. Tiz, T-I-Z. That's a pretty interesting name. What is the difference between ECB and EHB? A housing choice voucher is administered from a public housing authority or PHA, and EHB is going to be administered through the CoC or Continuum of Care. So one will be administered by a private housing authority and the other will be administered by a nonprofit. DJ, I like that name actually. DJ, CoC administrators are also private entities like PHA, so they make their own rules. Well, let's have an understanding. HUD sends money down to all housing authorities and CoCs. That's true, right? And every agency certainly does have its own rules. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, it doesn't supersede federal laws or rules. And so it's not a license to print discrimination, prejudicial behavior. This is why housing authorities and CoCs get their funding yanked, sued, or they receive indictments. If anybody believes we're lacking indictments where housing authorities have stolen money and things like that, HUD has probably sued and made housing authorities and CoCs insolvent hundreds of times. The lawsuits fly all the time. So just because they make their own rules doesn't mean they're not answerable. The question is who's smart enough to be able to go and make war with them? There's one thing I'm very confident with. If there's anybody across this nation that's a war maker, it'd definitely be me. I'm surrounded by clients that are law firms, attorneys, and former directors of housing authorities. So exponentially, and that's not even including the hundreds of legal aid societies that we've dealt with. So yeah, we can make war, and I could care less about their Mickey Mouse policies. They can draft whatever administrative plan they want. I could care less. If it has a loophole in it, if it doesn't follow federal law or it violates people's rights, then it doesn't matter. The ultimate person is going to make that determination as administrative judge. Okay. All right. So moving on from there. And he goes on to give me a cat face. Thank you. One OTP, thank you for your work. I appreciate hearing that. Anytime somebody thanks me, I'm most gracious. I'll take a thank you over $1 any day. Process, and they ignored me. Florida here. I'm sorry to hear that, one OTP. Florida's a tough state in many regards. A lot of different things, but I think every state has its own set of issues internally. Let's see. Lakeisha Kayla. I like that last name. It's pretty. Does housing authority help with security deposit warrants? Let's talk about a little bit of what the housing authorities can and cannot do, just briefly. They're not ever really going, federal funds cannot be used for moving costs, for deposit costs, or any of that. Whatever, money at the federal level that comes from Congress that's issued to HUD, and HUD issues it down to CoCs and housing authorities, that money must be used either as a special use in order to benefit the community or as a way to be able to pay for vouchers. It will never really be used to pay for moving costs, furniture, and all that stuff. That stuff you'll have to seek out locally or at the state level for assistance in that matter, but the feds aren't going to do it. I know there's a lot of confusion about that, but it's true. One OTP, you didn't see my question. Let me make everybody very clear real quick. Sometimes questions that are asked on YouTube show up late. And though you may be able to see your question on your computer, it may not be true for me. Sometimes I've had people comment. I'll get one or two that are there, and then 5-10 minutes later, their question will pop up. It is not me intentionally avoiding or skipping any questions. My goal is obviously to answer everybody's questions. So I'm going to take a look and see if any new questions want OTP. and then we're going to move on with the emergency housing part I'm supposed to be teaching. All right, so it seems you have asked, how can one acquire the manual? You can acquire a very similar manual today by going in the description. So that way you can get a general idea of the Esplanade. Otherwise, you'd have to deal with a consultant. There's just no other way, unless you can afford to deal with companies like Nana McKay, and they're going to want $2 to 10 grand per half their manuals for PHAs and other systems. Okay, these manuals are not going to freely float around Google. Trust me. So that's part one. All the other way is that you could sign up directly with your continuum of care for the state as it's administered, and then you'd go through all their classes and different things. So that's something they're going to make readily available to the public. Something like my office would have it, but the general public, no, because it would be a disaster for homeless people to carry around manuals and then, beat the hell out of their tests and administer and stuff like that. So we work with clients to try to give them as much information as possible. I'm not going to get deep into that because clearly I'm a public personality and consultant, and I don't like tipping my hand in my videos as far as what we can do, because then that means housing authorities and continuum of cares can counter whatever actions our office takes. Okay. All right. We're going to stop now for the questions. We're clear now what emergency vouchers are. We're clear about where they go. There's a manual and a point of contacts in the description of the video. Now, let's talk about what's important in terms of your case. So even if we have a manual and we can give all the best answers, what is the primary focus for a powerful case? That's what I'd like to talk about. The highest factor that can be considered that gives the biggest chunk of money in this deal when you're trying to get emergency housing vouchers, those experiencing domestic violence, meaning physical violence, mental abuse, financial fraud, stalking. Okay. And you also have trafficking and a few others, but I have to be careful what I say on YouTube because they don't appreciate a lot of those words. All right. That's stuff like jet fuel. It means your case will be considered above and beyond all, and they will move and react to absolve or resolve your case twice as quick as any other case. So that's like jet fuel. And we call that DV, or domestic violence. If you have a DV inclusion in your application, you've got a very good case. Quick advice about DV for those of you that have actually experienced it and are in the process of having somebody prosecuted. Your local prosecutor can cut a letter, and that's a county to county referral. When you get that referral from the district attorney, and a lot of them aren't even aware they can write it. You have to let them know. I'm gonna take a sip of this energy drink, guys, because my throat's dry. Second element that makes your case really, really important. These are the big three, kind of like cigarette companies. You have the big three. The second one's going to be disability. The best way to qualify for disability is that you have a disability check through the Social Security Administration, but that's not required always. HUD, being a different federal agency, has, in my opinion, a lower standard of what disability is. It covers a wide number of things. And anybody that can establish that, whether they're having a mental or a physical disability that would likely affect them or their quality of life greater than 12 months, could qualify. There are many things to be considered there, and I don't want to get too deep into that. That's why part 2 is coming. So that's the second one. Number 3, homelessness. There are many variations of the federal government uses homeless. There's homeless, there's chronic homelessness, and there's imminent homelessness. The primary goal here is, if you're living in an uninhabitable place without a bathroom, a toilet, and a shower, then that's uninhabitable. That situation there would give you the highest priority. Second to that's going to be a situation where you have remained sleeping in the car and other places for greater than 12 months. And then, of course, the third thing is you're in a situation clearly that's fixing to fall apart. Either rents have gone up, you're fixing to lose your place to live, you're going to be evicted, and the situation must be in the process of falling apart in the next 30 days. Okay. Now, you're taking a look at that as a whole, and you have to kind of put your case together the right way in order to kind of qualify for that. It's kind of tricky because there's a lot of rules. There's sub rules to it as well. Any person that has all three of those is just almost a guarantee. Having two of that, you have an extraordinary powerful case. If you have one, you still have a good case. If you have none of those things going on, you're going to have a very difficult time trying to get an emergency housing voucher. But it's not impossible. As like I tell my clients, I don't perform miracles. I don't walk on water, but I have been known to be able to make emergency housing vouchers somehow reach my clients without the three. But if you have those things present in your case, then you have great potential for this. Homelessness is really the basis of this, or those that are fixing to arrive at homelessness. So let me answer a few questions regarding dispel a few rumors. You don't need to live in a homeless shelter to qualify for this. Okay, many agencies will have you believe you got to put all your stuff in a trash bag and move into the homeless shelter. You do not need to be indentured at a shelter to scrub toilets for 3 months before you qualify. That's the primary system. There's lots of ways to get around that. It's not even a requirement, but it's a requirement if you call the wrong place. You see my point? It's all about knowing where, when, and how. And that's why with emergency housing vouchers, I'm going to advise most of you it'd be smarter to deal with a company that has a lot of experience with this than you fly out there with a manual and think you've got it. Because if you don't have it, you're done. Your duck is cooked for the next 12 months. Okay. I'm going to stop in briefly for questions. Anybody got questions? And so I see Rainbow Dash, loving that. Thank you for the keys. By the way, guys, if you ever wonder about my terminology about me and my cats, I'm bringing a little something extra outside the emergency housing voucher. I have keys and chi-chis. Kikis are the boys and chi-chis are the females. If you have a lot of cats or even a lot of dogs, sometimes it works a little better when I use those terms with my cats because that means I can get them all to come at one time. So you start losing track of names. I mean, yeah, I can name all the cats, but then, my goal is to get everybody to dinner at the same time. We have Kikis and Chi-Chis. Okay. And thank you for the stickers. All right. Laura Bonnet. I met Continuum of Care. Well, that sounds like you had an interesting time then. I'm glad that you met it. DJ, very helpful. Thanks. Again, this is an introductory video, guy. I don't want to. Thing is, we don't always want to cook a little gumbo in the video. We need to start with an introduction because a lot of people may decide this is not for them. If you feel it is, let me tell you something, guys. If you're out there, you're sleeping on a couch, you're sleeping in your car, you're sleeping outside, or you're sleeping in a shelter, reach out to our office. You don't need to do that. Probably get you out of that situation in any way for as little as 90 days. Some cases, as little as a month. All right. You don't need to do that. Now, what I want to give a disclaimer about is if you're doing that in certain places like New York and California and Florida, we're in for a little bit of a ride, but it's not impossible. Okay. So it's never a thought of, okay, well, I'm never going to get this. It's just how long will it take? And I'm just saying that certain areas are a little bit take a little longer time. Sometimes we have to rebuild your case to be more conducive with what they're looking for. So nobody's asking me to lie, cheat, steal, or break their morals. I'm just suggesting that if you have a weak case, then we need to make sure we're working on that we meet those nice federal rules. And it can be done without ever violating your religion or your morals, okay? Besides that, one lady, she refused to do what I'd asked her, and it was perfectly legal. And she's, because she was Christian. And I told her, I said, well, you call me back if you get tired of sleeping in the car. A month later, she calls back. She goes, Jesus forgives. I said, I bet he does when it's 8 degrees outside. So, again, guys, I'm not here to cheat any system, but by virtue of my job, my requirement and main requirement is that I be good at what I do. All right, Tis, once you receive a EHV in your experience, what are some of the roadblocks to getting housing? Well, by fair estimation, roughly 60 to 70% of the landlords will laugh, hang up, or tell you to, let's be honest, we'll say fluff off. Okay, I can't use the bad word today. I'm no dollars for the swear jar. So you have to fluff off. Thinking of my cats. The other 30% will. So, but that's not the important focus is the negative. We have to focus on the positive. So if we know we have a 70% failure rate with getting housing, then statistically, what should my company be focused on? Since we keep statistical data, the important thing we learned is if you give a moderate effort as prescribed, it should take the average person, including a disability or mental disability, roughly 6 weeks to find a place. So yes, it's a bit lengthy, but statistically speaking, we've proven that everybody from Asperger's to MS, MD, schizophrenia to low acuity all seem to arrive at around a 6 month mark. Those that really have their stuff together or they're highly neurotic with a high IQ, maybe a little bit less. Those with Asperger's that are part genius but part not so functional, same thing, they usually end early. So there are certain types of clients. God touched them and gave them a little bit more, and it allows them to get done a little quicker. And it's not always about intelligence and understanding. Sometimes it's just about pure luck, right time of season, being in a city where the demand's less, and also the human element, the worker caring and processing you quicker because she believes your case is genuine. So there's many things that can influence outcomes. But the main goal of any good consultant is to influence whether you get it or not. Okay, isn't that the most important thing? All right, LD Martinez, thank you. I love all the stickers. I love the feather sticker you put in there. It's pretty cool. The praying hands. JW, I'm blocked or not showing at all. Well, if you were blocked and not showing at all, then I wouldn't be reading that, right? Guys, y'all have got to quit being so suspicious of everything. One thing I have a difficult time with is like this past week, we had what I call 4 Karens. We had 3 Karens and one Mr. Karen. Suspicion and flights of fancy and attitudes and flipping out, meltdowns. I understand people have sophisticated lives, things are falling apart, but we need to give a little more attention to the positive, okay? I deal with people that are falling apart, and the minute things don't go their direction, we're talking about hissy fits, tantrums. I find that highly undesirable. And look, I advocate strongly for people that have all kinds of mental health issues because if our office didn't help them, there's a lot of consultants that won't even accept people that may suffer from different views of the world. Maybe they're have schizophrenia or bipolar, and they demonstrate that their moods can be indifferent at times. I try to work with that, but hell, I can be just as mental as anybody because I have a patience threshold too. In other words, I have a low tolerance for BS. And when I find that a client's not so much mental, but more just trying to play a game, I'll terminate it. So I had a difficult week with a couple of Karens, I call them. All right. And again, you know what, JW, that whole spill there was not about you. It just made me think of real situations where people kind of annoy me. But you're not blocked, my friend. You're always welcome here, JW. Pamela Jackass. I love that last name. I don't think I'm saying it right, but thank you so much. I'm in Texas. Well, you know what? We're native then. If you're near Houston, then we're probably close by. How can I get started with your help? Well, I tell you what, Pamela, if you look up in a description there, you'll find you'll find links to our website and booking software. If you feel appropriate and you would like our office to help you or do casework for you, we can do that. The choice to purchase services will always should remain as the last option. Okay. I'm not here to line my pockets, just produce results. And so that's what I would advise doing if you so wish to. Okay. Princess Sarah, I love that. Now, when a person knows they're a princess, they got it going down. So I like that. It shows that you're here. Hey, you got it going on. So Princess goes on to say, do you assist only in particular cities? Well, let me clarify. For those that don't understand, vouchers, housing, all of it subsidized by the federal government. So by virtue of that, I practice in every state, basically. So, and over the years, there's not a state, and not just states. We help people from all around the world. So we have had cases in every single state in the U.S., including Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Alaska. We don't exempt any counties. However, I got to tell you, Maryland's really starting to get on my nerves. Really getting on my nerves because the way they have things set up in that state. Okay. Other than that, yes, we assist people in all zip codes, all counties, and all of the contiguous U.S. If you have family members in the U.S. and you reside, say, in Australia, Europe, China, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Japan, Antarctica, we get calls like that all the time. I mean, I've had people, we had to schedule appointments, crazy hours for people in London or even in Australia. We're happy to work with you or your family members. So there's a lot of people that book appointments with us or trying to attempt to help a person that's homeless or family members that may not necessarily know how to make the best choices. Okay. Shirley Bryant, excellent. Well, I appreciate that. You're excellent too. Are you down, Lopez? Thank you for your generosity. Let's hope I can keep giving it. And I'm going to give you another personal update. I have now to date lost 37 pounds and my blood pressure is coming to a normal point. Most of y'all watched me as I went from the back injury and kidney surgery over the last couple of years. I was blowing up to the point my eyes they would pop out their head. I'd reached 287 pounds, down to 251 pounds. I'm averaging 2 pounds a week off. I have a dietitian now, and I go to Pure Bar. Interesting. It's low impact workouts. I thought I'd bring that up because I know some of you worry about my health. And some of you worry because, if I wasn't helping, who knows if you actually get a voucher, right? So I'm just joking. Everybody's capable. So I'm glad to report that. And I'm also been going to tanning booth. It's okay. Heavy people can have a tan too, not just the pretty ones. I used to be something, but as you get older, you do what you can to keep yourself up, right? I was talking to a client. She's in her 60s or 70s, and she goes, Jay, don't matter how old you get, you gotta keep trying. You gotta keep trying to do the best. Because if you feel good inside, try to feel good on the outside, right? All right. Shirley Bryant, love the cats. Hey, you know what? Y'all want to take a look at my big Maine Coots? He's here sleeping on the desk. I want to introduce you to one of my other office managers. I like to do this slowly with the camera. It's going to make it, you're going to see a little bit of a blur as I do this, but we're going to take a look at Mr. Tom Tom. He injected himself into my home. He found the cat door. And here's the strange part. He found our cat door. He came in. He was spooked. Complete wildcat. I can now pet him and he'll lay by me. Now, this is a complete, absolute wildcat. And this is how far we progressed in 6 months. And for Christmas, he brought his daughter, which looks just like him. She doesn't like our hotel services and our dinner plan, but she does visit occasionally. But here's Mr. Tom Tom. We can go slow. And yes, the Christmas tree's still up. Tom Tom. Papas. Say hello to the crowd. You see, he's got a big mane, and if you could really see his tail, it's flat and long and strange. He's got very pointed ears, and you see all that extra on his bottom of his feet. Yeah, so he's not full Maine Coons. Okay, he's partial, right? And though you cannot see the totality of his size because he looks, maybe just like a moderately big cat. If he were fully extended, you'd see he was roughly twice as big as a normal cat. It's just that the way that you're seeing in the video makes him look probably ordinary. But that's Mr. Tom Tom. He is a gentle, beautiful soul. I quite enjoy him. We'll soon, when I earn enough trust, we'll take him down to the groomers, get him fixed up, clip all the nails, clean the ears out, get him all checked out. And, because even animals need help. We've spent 4,000 years domesticating cats. And when you release a cat into the wild, a lot of things, its biologies have changed, depend on us kind of caring for them. That's my little mission. Now, Tom Tom didn't come to us abused or anything like that, but I got to tell you, he's a good Christmas bed warmer. And Big Pops definitely struggles with Big Tom Tom because he likes being the leader of the pack. And old Tom Tom there is giving him a run for his money, but at least he's a gentle soul, right? All right, Annie Hamel, thank you for all the ups and downs and thumbs up. And thank you, High Bottoms. Well, guys, I'm glad that we were able to cover some of the essentials here for this video. It was not designed to be high in depth. You want the high in depth and you're ready to learn, get your pad and your pen ready, get your mouse ready or your phone. You join us again Tuesday of next week around 10 a.m. Central Standard, and we're going to get into the serious stuff. And we're going to go through a manual and we're going to discuss what it takes. Okay. Again, I'm guiding y'all on this process, but it would be extremely wise to understand that only about 20 to 30% of the time the people who use this on their own are able to get it. Okay. So I'm not telling you need to hire me to do anything, but you would be foolish not to. Okay. I've seen a lot of failure with this, even with a manual. That being said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up because I have an appointment with the dietitian. Today I get to learn all the other things I can't eat. So, because I got to be honest with you, living off of bananas and chickens has not been the most fun. And if she finds out I'm sucking on that energy drink, I'll probably, well, she's not going to, she'll have to put $1 in the swear jar as well, right? All right, I've enjoyed talking with y'all. Do consider membership if you like CoCs or the content, my cats. And then we will see you again Thursday. For those that don't know, Thursday is the spicy videos. And nope, no swear jar. I talk the way that I'm going to talk. I do what I'm going to do, and we report things as they are. If you have a hard time with hearing the truth or reality, this wouldn't be the channel for you. There are lots of entertainers out there that are not consultants that make videos. They'll be happy to appease whatever neuroses that you require, including being lied to, maybe watered down, stuff like that. They put on lots of lipstick and a pretty suit and keep it all professional. They don't cough or come make videos when they have the flu and all that. Again, I run my channel the way I want to. People don't like that, then tough shit. You can always drive your car to a bridge and then put it in drive and drive right off. I could care less. I'm here to serve those that want to learn, empower, and educate and get themselves in a strong position so you can feel good about things, so you have survivability and you have a future. What I'm not here to do is sugarcoat a bunch of shit, okay? You can't handle the truth, then move on. Same thing if you book services through my company. Everybody's so fixated on this professional tone. Well, it's I paid you. You should talk to me like the Queen of England. When I call, you answer. It don't work that way with me. Respectably, I give a lot of latitude to clients, but at no time will I allow clients to dictate anything to me or lecture me. I live a complicated life, but I wouldn't be known as one of the best consultants in the country if I was a fool. And I can tell you, thousands can tell you very strongly what my reputation is. But you have to put up with my neuroticism too, because I'm not your average consultant. I prefer reality over the sugarcoat. Okay. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you all, and we're going to spice it up Thursday because I'm ready to take the swear jar, throw it out the window, and get real, right? All right, Annie Himmel, I'm so glad you were here. Cheryl Whitstone, so glad you're here. For those four that joined our membership for CoCs, thank you so much. Tom gives you a thumbs up, and we will see you again. For those that don't know our video schedule, I'm going to read it off real quick, or you can find it in the description. So what we have remaining this week, and I'm going to tell you what they're going to be about. Thursday live video chat, we're going to do HUD homeownership program. This will be an intro, so don't come here jacked up on coffee Thursday expecting the deep wisdom of the HUD homeownership program. We need to start off in doses because otherwise I'd have to make a 4-hour long video and then have to take aspirin for my throat. And we're going to include some other things, including using updates for Thursday. That is live. You may speak to me. Sunday will not be a spicy video. It'll be an ordinary swear jar video. We're going to do educational videos for that. So I'm going to be teaching, and what I'm going to be teaching for that day, anybody that is a senior, 62 years and older, or 55 and older, please do join. We're going to talk about some of the realities of what you can do. So we're going to discuss intro, and then we're going to discuss some options. Okay, that by itself will chew up a half hour. Okay, so an intro plus some options, and then we're going to move into a part 2 for the following week. So that's going to be the new progression of most videos. Is I'm going to break it down so we don't have to spend so much time. I mean, I can talk 14 hours straight on single subject matters. So. All right, guys, you enjoy your day. We'll see you Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Texas time, or you can join us for a live Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Standard time. Keep in mind, we have a Monday live short, 60 seconds. It'll always be the menu for the week, tell you all the videos and what they're going to be. And that will be at 10 a.m. Central Standard time. And then we have our Tuesdays, educational videos. at 10 a.m. Central Standard Texas time. Google it if you don't know the time zone. Many of you are from all over the nation. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.